Both of these places are just such fantastic places to live. I honestly can say that, like, I really, really enjoyed my time in both these places. Kuwait and Dubai, they're great. Kuwait I moved to first of all as a teacher, and then I moved to Dubai as a teacher, and now I'm back in Kuwait. Right now I'm in Kuwait. Like, it's gorgeous, right? I love it up here. Anyway, comparing the two countries, there's a few different things we can think about. I want to talk about, first of all, the infrastructure. So the infrastructure in Kuwait is lacking. There's no trains, there's no buses, and if you've got a car, you can get around. But in Dubai, you don't need a car so much. You can travel on the metro. They have an amazing metro which goes right down the centre. You can really get around easily without a car. They've got good buses, and it feels a little bit more forward thinking in terms of their transport, in terms of their infrastructure, and it's a bit more modern in that way. Having said that, the traffic in Dubai is worse. So Kuwait traffic can get a bit hectic, on a Thursday evening, a Thursday afternoon, in the evenings around the busy points. But generally speaking, like, the roads are big, they're wide. People drive, traffic flows. There's only 3 million people here. It's a lot of people, but it's actually quite a big place for 3 million people. It's not that dense. So the traffic here isn't too bad at all. Dubai can get really, really crazy. You could be sat in traffic for hours, even within the other Emirates further up, Sharjah, Ajman, coming in to Dubai to work. Yeah, it gets kind of mad. So the traffic in Kuwait is actually better. If you don't like sitting in traffic, which then again, who does, maybe Kuwait's a better option for you. What else can we talk about? We can talk about the culture. I just want to talk about the culture slightly. So, the build-up of Dubai is very much majority expat, as it is in Kuwait. So they have that in common. The thing is, in Kuwait, it's about 2/3 expat. In Dubai, it's like 9/10, maybe even 95%. So it's huge proportion of the people living in both Kuwait and Dubai are expats. So what that means is that the actual citizens of the country, the Kuwaitis or the Emiratis, are a very small proportion of the country. If you were to take 10 people at random out of Kuwait, chances are is that only 3 of them would be Kuwaiti. If you took 10 people out of Dubai, chances are only 1 of them would be Emirati. So you've got this huge mashup of expat populations in these two places, Kuwait being a country and Dubai, of course, being a city as part of the UAE. So that affects the culture. That really does affect the culture, to be honest. And what you find is that you actually rarely interact with a Kuwaiti, rarely interact with an Emirati. Now, in terms of how strict the two countries are, I personally think it's a misconception that because Dubai sells alcohol and Kuwait doesn't, that's a pretty big difference between the two, that people have this illusion that Dubai is like the more kind of liberal and more free and more modern and more progressive place compared with Kuwait. That's not really true. That's not really true. And you sometimes read online, Kuwait is more conservative. I don't think so. I think actually Dubai is more conservative. Dubai is totally ran by the royal, the monarchy, the sheikh and the supreme rulers, basically. Whereas Kuwait is actually semi-democratic. They vote here. It's a semi-democratic country. They have a general assembly, and some of the decisions are made by elected officials, and some of them are made by selected or kind of a chosen bunch. So that has implications for the feel of the country. Don't let people tell you that Kuwait is more conservative than Dubai. I personally don't think it is. We're talking small differences here. They're both relatively conservative compared to probably where you're from. If you're from the West, if you're from America, UK, Europe, Australia, I don't know, one of those places, then you have the freedoms that you're used to, and these places are a little bit more conservative. There's no freedom of press in the UAE. There is kind of an arguable freedom of press in Kuwait. So that's my kind of general feeling on the two in terms of that issue. Now let's talk about the weather and climate. Weather and climate, The weather in Kuwait is hotter and colder. It gets hotter summers and colder winters. So the weather in Dubai although it's very, very hot, it tends to be more humid. It tends to be much more humid in Dubai because it's nearer the sea. It's just got more coastline surrounding it. And Kuwait, because it's got a lot more land surrounding it, it's only got kind of like maybe like between kind of 2 and 5 o'clock of that little coastline exposed to the sea. Most of the air comes off the land. You've got the whole of Saudi Arabia, you've got Iraq to the north. You've just got desert all around. So when the air comes off the land, it's quite dry, which means that the heat is more bearable. If you've got very humid weather, it's kind of suffocating. It can get quite intense. And personally, I prefer the climate in Kuwait because of the fact that it's drier. The humidity in Dubai is, it's just choking. You can't get away with it. You try to sweat, but your sweat just doesn't go anywhere because the air is already so humid, and you tend to find it quite inescapable to be able to get away from the heat. So you get hotter summers and colder winters here in Kuwait. It's drier. Dubai is still going to be hot, but it's going to be less extremes. Let's talk about the social aspect. So we mentioned earlier about the differences between having alcohol in Dubai and not alcohol in Kuwait. That's like quite a well-known thing. In fact, you can go to a bar in Dubai, you can have a pint of beer, or you can get like a bottle of whiskey or something, but you can't do that here in Kuwait. Kuwait is a totally dry country. You can't drink, you can't bring alcohol in, you can't take it out. Well, there's none here anyway. You can't buy, you can't sell it, you can't drink it. It's just a dry country. So if you're someone who likes to have a drink, then maybe Kuwait isn't the place for you. Maybe you should go to Dubai. Now, socially, there's a lot going on in Dubai. There's a lot more going on in Dubai than in Kuwait. Kuwait's a place for simple people, simple pleasures. I would probably include myself in that. You can go for a walk along the beach, you can go to a mall, you can go to a restaurant, you can meet friends and play games, board games and stuff. You can have a picnic by the coastline, you can go horse riding in the desert, you can go to a mall, you can go see a film, you can go to the cinema, you can go quad biking in the desert, you can drive into the desert and go camping, you can take pictures of the stars. All of these things, by the way, are Kuwait. These are all things which don't require like club music and booze and things like that. So Dubai, on the other hand, you've got hotels, you've got restaurants, you've got probably all those things I've just mentioned and more. You can also go skiing. You can go skiing in a mall. There's an aquarium in a shopping mall. There's a ski slope in a shopping mall. There's loads of crazy things to do in Dubai, and you won't run out of things to do. It's a much bigger city. It's part of a much bigger country. Dubai as a city is relative to Kuwait as a country, but in terms of Dubai being part of the United Arab Emirates, you've got Sharjah, you've got Ajman, you've got Ras Al Khaimah, you've got Fujairah, you've got Abu Dhabi down the road. You've got all these different places within part of the UAE which you can explore. So on a weekend in Kuwait, you might be able to drive for like maybe 50 kilometers out into the desert, and then you're in the desert. Where do you go from there? You can't really go anywhere. Whereas Dubai, you could actually drive from Dubai to Oman, across the border from UAE, leave UAE, go into Oman. So these two countries are very, very different.